Thank you. Croeso members, apologies that we're starting a bit later today due to technical difficulties. Also apologies that I can't be with you in the chamber due to work commitments. Felly prynhawn da a chroeso i'r cyfarfod yma o'r Pwyllgor Scrutiny Addysg. Good afternoon and welcome to this hybrid meeting of the Education Scrutiny Committee on October the 16th, 2025. I am Councillor Rebecca Phillips and I will be chairing this meeting. Before we move on to the next agenda item, please note that this meeting will be recorded. Please can you ensure that your phones are switched to silent for the duration of the meeting. When asked to raise your hand, can members who are virtually viewing, please raise their electronic hand. Members who are in the room, please raise your physical hand. I wish to remind members signing in remotely of their legal obligation to have their cameras switched on during the meeting, please, in order to be seen and heard whilst participating in council business. Officers are reminded that they are free to leave the meeting following their item. There is no fire drill in the chamber today, so should the fire alarm sound during the meeting, please make your way to the nearest exit. For the purpose of the recording, I will hand over to our Democratic Services Officer to confirm attendance in the meeting room, please. Diolch Pam.
Thank you, Chair. In the room with us today, we have officers Rhiannon Crowhurst, Kerith Humphreys, Andrew Herbert, Chris Millis, and Councillor Neath Jenkins and myself.
Lovely, diolch yn fawr. And move on to agenda item 2, declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest, please, members?
I can't see any, Chair.
I'll declare an interest on item 4A, please, as a staff member of Menter Iaith Castell Neath Talbot. Diolch. So we'll move on to agenda item 3. You will see the minutes of the previous meetings attached, pages 5 to 14 of the agenda pack. If you feel that these minutes are an accurate record of the meeting, can I please have a proposer and a seconder?
I'm happy to propose, Chair.
Happy to second, Chair.
Diolch yn fawr. If members do not indicate to the contrary, then I will take it that these minutes are approved.
Chair, I can see no indication to the contrary, so those minutes are approved.
Diolch yn fawr. Agenda item 4, to consider items from the Cabinet Work Programme. So we will move on to consider the reports as selected by this committee for consideration. And the first is 4A, Welsh in Education Annual Report, pages 15 to 157. The report is for monitoring. Please can officers provide a brief introduction to the report? Diolch.
Thank you, Chair. No problem. This is the report on the Welsh in Education Strategic Plan, which members will know is a statutory plan that all local authorities have to have. The Neath Talbot's West details the plan to support and further develop the Welsh language education in schools and in the wider communities. And the plan details how this will be secured over the next 10 years, January 2022 to January 2032. This report details the progress made in the third year of implementing the plan and the targets for the next 5 years. And the appendix A and B show the annual review and the plan for the next 5 years. Key points to note, I think, I won't go through the whole report, but the key points to note are the development of the draft Welsh in Education strategy, which will be presented to members later on or early next year. The completion of 6 promotional videos and prospectuses, and I would recommend having a look at those. They're on our website and they're really good quality. And I have to give credit to my colleague Kerith Humphreys, who's been working on those for us as part of the West work. Also, work with Clear Communications on behavioural change is another element of the plan that's progressed well this year. The completion of the Ysgol Gymraeg Bro D Skills Hub and our positive feedback on the West from our recent Estyn inspection. I'm happy to take any questions, Chair, if there are any questions on the report.
Diolch yn fawr. Members, do we have any questions, please? Councillor Sonia Reynolds.
Thank you, Chair. I've got about 3-4 questions, and my apologies for not making pre-briefing. Some issues came up that got in the way with that. I just wanted to comment that it was good to see so much funding being provided from Welsh Government for this. Can I ask, on page 24, we talk about the behavioural change research work. Was this from the specific Cymraeg 2050 local authority education grant, please?
Yes, I'm reliably informed by Cerith that is the case, yes.
Thank you. And they work again on 2024, the Brodeur Skills Hub. Is that being done by the SIP funding or other Welsh Government resources?
That was part of the Community Focused Schools Welsh Government funding.
Thank you.
But we, as it was in a Welsh medium school, we're crossing two elements there through the one grant.
Thank you. And reading through this, there's, obviously there's a huge amount of work being done on Welsh medium, which is good. I'm very pleased to see that and the commitment to promoting Welsh. If we look at the financial impacts on page 26, I'm just wondering whether the increase in the number of Welsh medium schools and the very focused nature of where they're going at the moment, is this likely to cause an impact on enabling the choice with parents who may want to make a choice to go into English medium? And I am very pleased to see that there's more of a focus to be put on Welsh in the English medium schools as well. I'm just concerned that there will be kickbacks and issues around the choice for those parents who don't want to use a complete immersion Welsh medium provision.
I don't think there's any danger of that within the 10-year plan. I think that over the lifetime of the plan, we are looking to create a number of new schools. I think it's 3 overall, isn't it? 3 new Welsh medium schools, but they are in areas where there is high demand already. So what we're trying to do, for example, with Tregellis, we're enabling a school in the community rather than having to bus those children considerably quite some distance away. That is unlikely to mean, that relatively small start is unlikely to mean that there won't be English medium provision for pupils in those areas. And even the work that the officers are doing and that we're doing around transforming English medium schools gradually along that continuum is going to take a long time to do. That's not going to happen overnight, and I don't think there's likely to be any repercussions in the lifetime of this plan. Possibly at some point in the future, but who knows what changes will come from Welsh Government, from the different strategies that are coming. But at the moment, I don't see that as an issue.
Thank you very much, Rhiannon. And if I may, I'm very interested in the work that's being done to promote Welsh education. And, it's lovely to see these things written down, but it would be really nice for members of the committee who wish to see some of the videos, to see a copy of the behavioural change research report, to say what exactly is going on there. And perhaps in the longer term, and I've been asking for the possibility of school visits in this forum and in the School Improvement Partnership meetings, to be able to do things like visit some of them. So, for example, to visit the Skills Hub when that's potentially possible, and also to be directed to or receive a copy of the Estin inspection report.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. I'm sure we'll be able to get you a copy of the Claremont work, because I think we probably hold that. Yeah, yeah. The videos you can access on the Neath Talbot Council website. If you look for Welsh medium, they're on there. visit to schools is something I know you've mentioned a number of times. A little bit difficult to organise because obviously the schools belong to the schools, but we can look into that again. What was the last thing? Oh, Estyn website. If you go on Estyn report, if you go onto the Estyn website, put in Neath for Talbot, our report has been published on the website there.
Thank you.
If that's helpful.
Thank you, Rhiannon. And in terms of school visits, these used to be quite simple prior to COVID. It would be really good to get back to that situation. It's really difficult, I find, to discuss some of these schools and some of the developments in isolation without having some sort of first-hand knowledge and view of them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Reynolds. Members, do we have any other questions, please?
Chair, Councillor Jenkins has a hand up.
Councillor Jenkins, please. Sorry, Nia.
No, that's fine. Thank you for that. It's just to say, yeah, I completely agree with Sonia's point on visiting schools. It's unfortunate that when we have tried to do that, even with the schools partnership group, the turnout was exceptionally poor, barring yourself and Councillor Rees. What I would like to say, if any of these are arranged, it's imperative that people actually make the effort to actually turn up. So thanks for bringing that up, Sonia.
Diolch yn fawr. Councillor Tuck, please.
Thank you, Chair. It's just a quick one. Just on 5B, it mentions the effect on positive workforce as they look to recruit more teachers who are able to speak Welsh, which is great. I just wondered if you had any idea how many approximately that might be.
I don't, sorry, no. Obviously there's more, we will have, with Tregellis, which is a starter school, more staff have been recruited there and are recruited on an annual basis as the school grows. I'm not sure of those numbers, but I'm sure we can find them out for you and pass them on after the meeting, if that would help.
That would be great. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I don't see any other indication. I've just got a few questions, if that's okay, Rhiannon. I was just wondering, in terms of the clear amount on the Cymru Iaith reports, what are the next steps in terms of that?
Yeah, so the next steps are to implement some of the findings, really. They're around psychological change and the way people tend to choose language for their schools. So it's just to implement those at an early stage to ensure that there's a good opportunity for parents to understand the benefits of bilingualism, along with, like one of the councillors said earlier, they don't have to choose it, just that we understand fully why people choose language and the thinking behind it, so that we're prepared really in our documentation and that our early knowledge of how parents choose their language. So that's the next change. With the videos, etc., we're a bit ahead as well. So I'm glad to know that some of the things that we learned have been implemented already in the videos.
Diolch, Gareth. I was just wondering, looking, obviously there's a massive amount of work. I'm obviously very much aware of the work that goes into this plan. Do you think we're doing enough to ensure that learners in our English medium schools have the opportunity to use their Welsh? I'm just thinking, obviously, in terms of my job, going round the Crew Cymraegs in some of the English medium schools are fantastic. You know, they... To me, I don't know why they're in English medium schools because their Welsh is so good. But are we ensuring that they are have the opportunity to use their Welsh?
Yeah, it's our aim for that to be the case, and I think it's probably fair to say that some schools are working harder and have gone further along that continuum than others. I know Kate is very keen to take a couple of pilot schools and start developing this a little bit further. And particularly in schools where the foundation phase is quite already strong, second language Welsh, which will make it quite easy, we think, and quite acceptable as well for parents. You know, if their children are doing it quite naturally, it's easier to accept, we think. So I think in summary to your answer, Probably not in some schools, but you know, it is our aim to make sure that we're starting off with easy wins. The schools that are doing it well and that we can build on, and then we can use those as a resource to spread the good practice to our other schools as well. And that's our aim, really. Slow but sure, I think, perhaps.
And I think
Do you
that's
agree,
it.
Kerith? I think.
Go on, Carith.
Sorry, I was just going to say, Kerith is more on the ground than I am. So
the only thing I'd add is in response to the 2050 Cymraeg is to increase the amount of Welsh being spoken, that be in an English medium or an English or a Welsh medium. So it's not always about the category of the school, it's about the amount of Welsh that they do there. And the amount of work that the English medium schools are doing is fantastic. So like you say, there's a lot of children who can speak Welsh in our English school, and that's a good thing as well. So that's just increasing the amount of pupils using the language.
Great. Yeah, I would say it's fantastic, but I would say at the moment, and I'm sure you'd probably agree with me on this, that it's inconsistent. And it's very much down to the staff of the school to push this forward. And I think maybe as an authority, we just need to emphasise that, you know, we are here to support them as well.
Chair, can I just come in a second? Sorry. We've had a message to some of the members at home, got some technical difficulties. Can I just check? I know the screens may be frozen, but can you hear us at home?
Yes.
I'm getting some thumbs up. So if there's any member who's got any issues, you may want to try to restart your, leave the meeting and rejoin. Thank you. Sorry,
Okay.
Chair. Sorry to interrupt there.
No problem at all. Thank you. We need to make sure that everyone can hear us. Great. Just one more then from me, really. Just the main challenges moving forward. Have you got any thoughts on what those would be?
One main challenge that we always get, of course, is the reliance on funding. A lot of this work is you know, it's the funding we get is paying for officer time, it's paying for resources. If we weren't to have that, WESP, I think, would slowly, you know, come to a bit of a halt, really. That is a challenge. I'm not aware, although Kerith can tell me otherwise, I'm not aware of any challenges from the schools. The schools all seem to be up for everything that's going on. Kerith, is there anything you... Oh yeah, sorry, of course, I didn't think of that. Our plans to build, well, the next new Welsh medium school is really hindered at the minute because we can't identify any suitable land. We're really struggling, which is common problem at the minute. But yeah, we will fail to deliver those schools in the timescale that we need to deliver them if we can't find land and start building. So that is a real challenge. Yeah, I think that's about it. Yeah.
Okay, diolch yn fawr. Pam, you've got your hand up. Did you want to come back in?
Yeah, only to say that Councillor Neath Jenkins would like to come in before we move on. Thank you.
Thank you. It's just to add to what...
Sorry, Councillor, do you want to... Sorry, Chair, do you want to bring Councillor Jenkins in now or at the end?
Yeah, if I just, Councillor Tuck has got his hand up, so if I can take Councillor Tuck and then I'll go to Councillor Jenkins, if that's okay.
Thank you, Chair. Just a quick one. I just wondered how many schools have already achieved and how many are kind of in the process, do you know, of working towards a Siarta Aeth award?
I'll have to get back to the exact number, but it's a very large number. All the Welsh schools have got to the gold, the Aur, and then the number of the primaries and the Welsh medium, English medium, sorry, have gone to the silver, which is the Arian, and then our comprehensive have all engaged as well. I think there's one or two who haven't, but there's a very large percentage of our schools which have engaged and are doing really well.
That's great to hear. Thank you very much.
Diolch. Councillor Jenkins, please.
Thank you. Thanks, Josh. That's actually saved me a bit there. That's one of the things I was going to bring up with the opportunity for people to speak Welsh in English medium schools. We have got the Crew Cymraeg based in a lot of schools as well. Why am I looking at that screen when the camera's up there? We have got the Crew Cymraeg based in schools, and there's quite a lot of innovative work being done with the Crew Cymraeg, where they've had a Dragon's Den type funding exercise for radios, that radio stations that the pupils actually organise themselves. And I think one of the most impressive ones during the time I did the last one was actually Dwrvelen School, and their Welsh was absolutely amazing, really good. So there is a lot of work there, and I know Bai Baglan are very keen on moving on to becoming a Category B school. We're working towards it. So there is a lot of work going on there, and yeah, you should all be rightly proud of it. Thank you.
Diolch yn fawr, Councillor Jenkins. Are there any other questions on this report, please? I don't see anyone. So diolch yn fawr i gyd am eich gwaith, and we look forward to receiving updates in due course. The report is for noting, so diolch yn fawr i chi gyd. Moving on to agenda item 5, we will now move to consider the reports as selected by this committee for consideration under the Scrutiny Forward Work Programme. And 5A is the school maintenance and improvement. This report is for information. Please can officers provide a brief introduction to the report? Diolch.
Thank you, Chair. I'm sorry, this is my voice going again now. This report contains information on the Strategic School Improvement Programme, which we refer to as SIP, and its role in developing and managing the Sustainable Communities for Learning Programme, which was previously the 21st Century School Programme, and the Capital Works Maintenance Programme. The report in front of you highlights the current condition of the education estate within the local authority and the associated backlog maintenance. I think it's important, before I go into outline some of the things in the report, to draw your attention to the fact that this is quite a complicated area. This is similar to home to school transport, for those of you who've been involved in that work, in that the budget sits with education, but the work sits with environment. So they are the people who have the expertise, the knowledge, and we are just the ones who sort of hold the budget. So until very recently, SIP had very little part to play at all in the annual capital maintenance programme. But over recent years, that's increased to the point where we still don't make any sort of technical decisions, but we advise our colleagues, or we support our colleagues when they come forward with a list of schools and a list of priorities. We are able to advise them which schools we feel need to be done first for various reasons. We're able to support head teachers through the process because, as you know, work is getting more, capacity is getting less, and so we try and work very closely with our colleagues to make sure that that is a seamless programme. I think it's worth noting, I think it is really important to point out that our SIP team is actually only 3 bodies, 2 full-time, 1 part-time. Kate is our coordinator, who can't be with us today, unfortunately, which is why I brought the West report in her place. Kerith, who is sitting beside me, Kerith Humphreys, who is the head teacher of YGG Tillerin, who is seconded out to help with the SIP programme and the West programme, so he's not full-time with SIP. And our colleague Roger Bowen, who's on screen, and who I think is the only member left of the original SIP team. And brings with him a wealth of knowledge and experience. So we're really grateful to Roger's experience in the team. So between these 3 officers, they manage millions and millions of pounds worth of Welsh Government funding, council capital money as well. Big responsibility and a lot of work, as you can see in the report. You can see the various grants that are covered in the report. So probably the biggest one is the Sustainable Communities for Learning one, which is the new build schools or the heavy refurbishment of schools. And as you can see, this is, to date, over £200 million worth of investment into our school estate because of that programme. Then we've got the Community Focused Schools Capital Grant Funding, which is still in place and is around 800,000 a year, or it has been for the last couple of years. Universal Primary Free School Meals Capital Funding, which we don't have anymore, but we're still finishing off some programmes there. Welsh Medium Grant Funding, Again, that has gone now, and we have to apply through the Community Focused Schools grant if we want any money to do Welsh medium projects. Additional learning needs capital funding, again around £800,000 worth annually there. And then the capital maintenance programme, which, as I've said earlier, is largely managed by your environment team with some support from us. I think the only other thing probably worth pointing out before I take any questions is that the SIP team is very much the sort of centre of a bit of a hub. They facilitate a lot of projects across a lot of areas. So they work closely with our ALN and inclusion colleagues, our Welsh medium colleagues, road safety, environment, highways, planners. All these teams are all part of the bigger team really that put these schemes together. Very complicated, but very exciting when you see a scheme finished and the children are in there using that provision. So sorry for talking so much, but I thought there was some background there that perhaps helps to understand where it sits in this. And I'm happy to take any questions, Chair.
Diolch yn fawr, Rhiannon. And we have got Councillor Sean Percy joining the committee today and has indicated that he'd like to ask a question. So Sean, os ti moyn dechrau ni off, diolch.
Diolch, Cadeirydd. Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Rhiannon, as well for the introduction to the report. And the fact that I'm here today is reflects that crossover that you mentioned between environment. So here we are again. It's nice to see you, Rhiannon.
Yes.
Yeah, a couple of questions from me, and this is really the start of perhaps understanding if there's some more areas that the members want to delve into on this, how myself as the chair for the other committee can perhaps work with Rebecca. So I want to start with page 166 and the current school building conditions. And I was just wondering if we've got an overview of how up to date those condition reports are.
Yes, I have, and there is a quite a complicated paper that we didn't put in with the report, but you're welcome to have a copy. I say complicated because it's quite technical. It's not an education paper; it's an environment paper. Yeah. So the first batch of surveys, which were undertaken in 2004, in 2008 they were all revisited, and then in 2016, Welsh Government brought out a new set of criteria for conducting the survey. So again, there were elements of change through that programme there. They're on a rolling programme. Oh yes, that's right. They're on a rolling programme. Some tend to be addressed more quickly than others. Depends sometimes as well on the, if the school is in poor condition, it may be assessed a bit more often to see if it's deteriorated. But yeah, they range from, and I've just got it on this page here somewhere, I'm sure. Yeah, I think they range from. Oh, sorry, I haven't got it.
They go from A to D, is that what you want?
Yeah, no time scales. All I can say is there is a scale. Some have been done recently. Some are not as recent. But I have been told just today, straight hot off the press, that there will be a new surveyor is either just been appointed or is going to be appointed by the environment team, whose sole purpose, I think, is to work on these condition surveys, not just for schools, but across the council as a whole. I think that would be a real benefit because, again, we short on capacity and time. Yeah, so some are more recent than others, to answer your question. Sure.
Thanks, Sharon. Are you happy for me to continue my follow-ups, Rebecca?
Yeah, happy, Sean.
Yeah, no, thanks for that. And yeah, with my environment hat on, this is an issue I've been raising a lot in terms of our understanding of our estate across the council, not just in education. So yeah, it is reassuring to know that resource is now going in, because I know this has been a problem. And if you can circulate that document, you've got to be very really appreciate that. I don't mind technical document. I mean, the reason I flagged it up in particular with this report, though, is, there's a line in there saying all through schools are all in category A, which is as new condition. And, I don't think that accurately reflects the situation on the ground. You know, I know, for example, Ysgol Baglan has, you know, a number of ongoing issues in terms of leaking roofs in the hall, issues with windows and fire doors and that sort of thing. And, you know, it's always worth flagging to members. And said, I know this issue quite well with my environment hat on, but there is always a level of risk and uncertainty within these reports that get given to members, and I think that's a very good example. That school is not in as new condition, does have, you know, defects and repairs that need to be carried out, and I just think we need to be aware of that point. So but it'd be interesting once I have that further information, I can digest that and perhaps see if there's something to follow up on. I want to ask a question then around the capital maintenance works programme, and I appreciate from what you've said at the start, Rhiannon, and you might not be able to delve into this in a lot of detail. I might need to pick this up with some environment colleagues. But what I'm trying to sort of unpick really across page 165 and 167, there's a brief mention about works prioritisation, and I know when I've raised this in other meetings in the past, there's been a sort of indication that we tend to direct that budget specifically at business continuity issues. And I think the director has used the term worst first in other meetings. And I was wondering whether that approach has been, you know, an historic approach, and whether we've also got any element of the spend that we allocate to avoiding problems escalating, if you catch my drift, because I understand we've got a huge backlog of maintenance, but if we're always spending money at the far end of the scale when that roof is, you know, pouring with water and the ceilings have collapsed, then we may be spending more money in the long run, and I haven't got a clear picture around that, and I know this might be delving into the environment area a little bit, but I'd be curious if you've got any indication on that one, Rhiannon. Diolch.
Yeah, certainly. I think, well, I can't talk about technical detail, but I certainly know enough to be able to say that, yeah, we are always paying catch-up. We have, as you saw, roughly just over 2 million last year and a 66 million backlog maintenance. And to go back to your first point about Ysgol Baglan, the condition surveys, it probably still is an A, because the condition surveys are graded on level of need. So, for example, a roof that was failing would give a higher percentage than, say, a leak in a classroom, or a door that wasn't working. So it's a sliding scale. So Bay Baglan probably still is an A, because there's enough of that building that is still in relatively good condition. Things like boilers are a priority, roofs, windows, watertight, things like that. So well, I don't know, as I say, that's a technical thing. The possibility is that is correct. And yeah, no, we can't, we don't have the funding. So at the moment, I was looking at the list for last summer's work. We're talking about serious things here. Fire precautions, roofs, windows, toilets. They carry a high priority for us. If we have a school that hasn't got toilets, we can't have children. School shuts. If they haven't got heating, the school shuts. It is as serious and as simple as that, really. Our surveyors come to us, our architects come to us and say, so-and-so school, if we don't do the roof this summer, next winter, we're going to have to do all the classrooms because the roof is leaking so badly. That goes to the top of the priority list, that gets done. And somewhere further down, where we might be able to prevent it getting worse, just falls off the list because there's just not enough money. So it's not ideal. It's not the way I think any of us would want to work, but we're forced into that because of the lack of funding we've got, unfortunately, and the poor condition of our schools are getting worse.
Thank you. Sean, do you have any further questions?
Only one brief one, and again, this may be something I need to pick up elsewhere, but have we got an indication as to whether we're able, whether we are keeping on top of the maintenance of our replacement school buildings? We're quite far in now down the road with some of the early buildings from the SIP programme, and I think what's important from a sustainability point of view and from a budget planning point of view is if we're going to use capital budgets, capital grants to replace assets rather than repairing them, which is fine as a strategy. We then also need to make sure we're then going to keep those in a good state of repair going forward. So have we got an indication for those schools, such as I declare I'm Governor of Awel and Moor, which was one of the first, if not the first, I think, replacement school. You know, for those buildings that are now, you know, more than 10 years old, some of them, you know, approaching 15 years old, have we got an indication there whether we're actually able to keep on top of that maintenance? Because otherwise, I think there needs to be a little bit of work around how that capital maintenance budget is actually going to work going forward as the estate transitions from majority of buildings that are a lot older into the new estate.
Well, I can tell you that none of the new schools are on my list that I got here from last year, and I'm not aware of any. It'd be the same as every other school if something major was to fail. But I think we rely on, we've got 2 school surveyors for the whole of the school estate who deal with the smaller maintenance jobs without them getting to sort of our level and to the level of the team in the environment. So I would think those sort of maintenance work would be carried out by the surveyors, and I wouldn't necessarily know about it. But it is certainly a question we can ask and find out a bit more and let you know. I don't know if either Roger or Kerry have got anything to add to that. Roger, maybe know a bit more.
Yeah, I'd like to think that we are keeping on top of the maintenance in the new schools. Fact is that schools themselves have some money delegated to keep on top of the day-to-day stuff, and the day-to-day repairs and maintenance. And as Rhiannon has said already, really, our surveyors and mechanical and electrical engineers that are frequently out in schools and have one-to-ones with head teachers and premises managers out in the schools, they do come back and tell us if there are any larger capital type issues going on in the newer schools. I mean, I know, for example, we have spent, we used to call Cwmtawi the new school, but we are now replacing roofs in Cwmtawi and boilers in Cwmtawi. That's almost 30 years old. And I appreciate, Councillor Percy, you know, we are 10 to 15 years into some of our new schools, but they're still not presenting with the level and difficult issues that our older schools are. So I'd like to say we are, but I'm sure that there'll be occasions that the new schools will come to try us as well. And, you know, the costs of replacement and repairs in the newer schools, we know are extremely expensive. And just to reiterate what Rhiannon and our director said previously, really, the 2.1 million, 2.2 million pounds a year that we have for capital maintenance is a drop in the ocean, really, and it's a bit like keeping all the plates in the air, you know, in the old Circus Act at one time. But I would like to say with some confidence that our newer schools are certainly, you know, the maintenance is being kept up to speed on them. And it's all down to our surveyors, again, who are out there, you know, day in, day out. And if and when something big comes forward, perhaps we'll be coming back here and saying, look, our new schools are getting to the top of the list for specific reasons. But we do try to keep all schools, you know, safe, wind, watertight and operational. And that's those are our top priorities, really.
Diolch, Roger. Diolch, John. On my list, I've got Councillor Freegard. I'm not sure if she's...
Oh, thank you, Chair. Yeah, thank you for allowing me to substitute today. It's the first time I've been in this committee, so you may have already discussed one of the questions that I've got to ask. I've got 2 questions, and they are more specific. So if you're unable to answer them, Rhiannon, I was just wondering if you could contact me later with the answers. The first one is about the new vocational school at Velindre. It's going to be developed on the existing site, and I can't see any reference to it specifically in the report. The cost is going to be around 16 million, and I wondered if the details will be forthcoming, or, as I said, you may have already discussed this matter. If you haven't, when would the details of that particular development be coming forward? Secondly, it was about the maintenance. Could I have an update on the maintenance of the current ELRS? Because we've got scaffolding up there, and it's been up there for some time now, but bits of the building are falling off. so much so that it's affecting Henry School, which is directly by it, and the teachers are unable to park there. And so the parking issue then is spread into the community. And it's all because of the maintenance of that particular building. And I understand that the development won't be done for some time anyway. So I was just wondering where we were with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Freegard. I can give you a very brief answer, but I think you should have received an email from me last week to offer you and Councillor Roman a meeting to discuss that.
Okay, I haven't seen that.
But
That would be really good to discuss that.
Yeah, I think it's probably a bit too much detail to go into for this, but I can give you a brief sort of summary.
Yes, please.
The vocational centre was brought to cabinet as part of the rolling programme for the SIP rolling programme. Sorry, some time ago. I can't remember when, probably about 18 months ago. And we were given permission then to develop that scheme and take it forward to the Welsh Government. We haven't brought a paper on the detail of the scheme. We were in discussion with the chair around whether that paper should come to cabinet, should come to scrutiny. But I believe now we've been advised that it might be useful for it to go to cabinet because of some of the management arrangements around setting up that building and that school. But we haven't got a date for that just yet. But I can go through the detail of the scheme with you in due course. In terms of the scaffolding, that is the contractors, our contractors have got that scaffolding up because there's asbestos in the building and they are doing asbestos searches, I think the word is, to try and work out what they need to take out, what sort of, precautions they need to take and things like that. So the scaffolding has been up there for our contractors. Haven't got a maintenance figure for the building because it's been empty for a number of years. And so we with the capacity we've got, we only have buildings that are occupied. So we might have something when the ELRS occupied it many years ago. But it's in a relatively good condition in terms of the actual structure of the building. But it has got, some damp, some repairs to the roof and windows are needed. As I say, asbestos removal is needed, things like that. So to give you a rough overview of what's there.
Can I come back, Chair?
Yes, Councillor
Thank
Freegard.
you. Yeah, it isn't at the moment. There are bits, actually, large chunks of concrete and stuff falling off, and they're falling off into the car park area of the Henry School, which is quite dangerous. I have emailed building services, but if something could be looked into for that, Rhiannon, I'd be really grateful. And I just thought that in regards to the new school, the head teacher's already been appointed. So I thought perhaps the detail, you may have already had the detail, but I would be grateful for the meeting. I would appreciate that.
Yeah, there's no head teacher been appointed for it.
Oh,
at this point.
That's what they told us in the community meeting, that the developers had said that she was already appointed and she was actually there. It was a Talbot head.
No, I don't know what that is. We've got a pathways manager who's working with me and with SIP to develop the scheme, but there's no head in place for that building at the moment.
All right, okay, that's interesting. Okay, I'll get back to you about the meeting. Thank you.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
Diolch yn fawr. Councillor Reynolds, please.
Thank you, Chair. I was aware that Councillor Freegard wanted to talk about the LRS, and I had, she addressed the questions that I had around that. But also, is it, one of the things that you said was whether the paper on that issue and that development should come to scrutiny, but it was decided it would go to cabinet. I'm a bit confused about that relationship, given that scrutiny. The plans for scrutiny are about development of policy and strategy, as well as, scrutinising decisions after they've happened. So could you just, clarify that, please?
Yeah, sorry, I probably explained that quite badly. what I meant to say was there's no decision needed. We're not establishing a school. It's not a school in its own right. So we didn't need to to go through the usual SIP processes, as you know, three different reports, consultation, report on consultation, and final determination. So it never needed to go to Cabinet. I felt it would be an interesting report for scrutiny and something that certainly members should be aware of. And I wasn't sure that there would be another mechanism for doing it. So we discussed whether we would bring it to scrutiny. I don't think we had a decision on that yet, but it's quite a way off anyway. But in the meantime, after conversations that we've been having with officers, we felt that maybe there was some decision making around it and that it would need to go to Cabinet at some point. So that's why we're there. That wasn't to say that it shouldn't go to scrutiny as well, or whether there should be, a series of reports to scrutiny around it. I don't know. But that's a decision for this committee and for the chair. But I would imagine it will come through it now as part of the Cabinet papers at some point.
Thank you very much, Rhiannon. If I may, Chair, can I ask that if there is a paper to go to Cabinet, wherever possible, we should try and receive it prior to the Cabinet discussion?
Yeah, Pamela, can you make a note of that, please?
Yes, certainly, sure.
Thank you. Can I follow up on a couple of other things as well, please, Chair?
Yeah, no problem, thank you.
Councillor Percy beat me to my list of questions overall. Just to confirm, given that this is around cross-working between the two departments, and I'm really pleased to see more of that happening and more interaction and engagement and teams working together. But the budget is with education. So presumably in terms of the requirement for every activity to have an oversight, a senior member of staff oversight, the oversight and the accountability with that is with education, with this committee and Cabinet, of course.
Yes, I believe so. I think, it is our budget, is managed for us, isn't it, by our accountants, and we have a specific accountant who sits within, who sits and looks at all the capital works, and she manages our budgets for us. But I guess that yes, it would be this committee that we report to around budget matters. Yes.
But so what I'm trying to get to is that Andrew Thomas, the director, would be the accountable officer for the SIP and the school maintenance and other programmes, even though it's a cross-departmental requirement. Yes. Thank you.
Yes, the SIP is definitely sits for this.
Thanks very much. And I wanted to just really look at how we can look at those things more easily going forward. I'm aware that, it's lovely for, Councillor Percy to drop into this committee and share information, but can we have, clarity on how those things are managed going forward with the two departments being engaged, so that we're sure that we've got all of the facts? I realise, as you indicated to Councillor Percy, that it's the maintenance and the detail of the reports about school maintenance and building are can be quite technical. However, this committee, for example, used to receive the full list, and maybe I've missed it somewhere along the way, but the full list of the condition requirements and what the issues were on the maintenance of schools. And it would be really good to have sight of that rather than just the categories, so that we know which schools, where, how things are going, and have that clarity.
Thank you, Councillor Renz. I would have to take some advice on that, because obviously the last thing we would want is to be causing alarm or anxiety amongst our schools. Now, our colleagues in environment understand what they're saying when they say in a category C roof. A head teacher might not have the same understanding, and there might be you know, we can do without 25 schools contacting us all saying, what are you going to do? My roof is in a terrible condition, and really they know what they mean within, you know, within those categories. So I think a list that could possibly be published with names of schools and the conditions, they know their conditions, but the list of works that might be needed to be carried out, potentially, I would have to check that would be something we would be willing to do, really.
I understand what you're saying, Rhiannon, but we always used to get that list. This committee received it at least once a year, or the Education Scrutiny Committee received it once a year. It didn't seem to cause an issue then, so I can't understand why we can't see that now. Even if it's something which is dealt with in private by this committee, and I don't understand particularly the need for that. It's just there used to be a list, and I miss it. It is very useful to be able to go through that. Thank you.
Okay, Rhiannon, are you happy to look into that?
Yes, certainly, no problem.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions, please, members?
I can't see any, Chair.
Okay, diolch yn fawr. So this report is for noting, and thank you all for your questions and the answers on that report. Moving on with the agenda to agenda item 5B, Curriculum for Wales update. This report is for monitoring. Please can officers provide a brief introduction to the report? Diolch.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, Andrew Herbert's going to do that for us.
Yeah.
Thank you. We've got a very ambitious and radical new curriculum that's come into place in September 2022. As councillors will be aware, it's a purpose-led curriculum aiming to support our pupils to become ambitious, capable learners, healthy and confident, ethical and informed citizens, and enterprising and creative contributors to their world. Schools are at liberty to design a curriculum based on the needs of their own learners, but amongst that, they should be supporting pupils to progress with their knowledge and understanding, their cross-curricular skills, and their values and attitudes, and also their ability to be more effective as a learner. I'm happy to take questions on the report.
Diolch yn fawr. I'm just checking. Councillor Rees says that the sound has gone. Can everyone else hear us?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Councillor Rees, can you hear us? Oh, Tom is going to give Councillor Rees a ring. Brilliant. Thank you. Okay, so yeah, thank you for that introduction. Members, do we have any questions, please? No, I don't see anyone. I've just got a few, if that's okay, officers. Firstly, I was just wondering how the consistency and quality is being monitored across, obviously, all the different schools in the county. Also, the report mentions challenges in terms of secondary schools. I'm just wondering, is this a problem, you know, across Wales? And also, how are the changes being communicated to parents? And do you think ourselves as an authority or schools can do more to get parents on board with the new curriculum? Diolch.
Thanks. So I'll take the first one, Chair. So monitoring is a continuous programme. It's a cycle of evaluation. One of the things that our officers do is to check in with the school to make sure that their self-evaluation processes are appropriate to the school. So we sort of check the checker, if you like. At the moment, yes, the curriculum is being rolled out and developed well across our school, but there's a variety of quality in that, and that's what can sometimes lead to a school being found wanting by Estin. So we are constantly looking at supporting our schools, our leaders, to support their teachers in the development of the curriculum and also the quality of teaching and learning. The second one about secondary, I'll ask Andrew to take that one.
Yes, so very much. It would be a national picture, Chair, in terms of what we're looking at here is cultural change fundamentally. And we've been in a system in our schools across the country where it's been very much focused about GCSEs and that end result. And what this curriculum asks us to do is to engage with why we send children to school and the purpose of why we send children to school, and the fact that that is about qualifications, but it's also about a lot more than qualifications as well, hence the four purposes of the new curriculum. So naturally, when you've got that cultural change in terms of our secondary schools, it's a difficult journey to go on in terms of there will be, with any element of change, isn't it, that there'll be those who are at the forefront of that change. And there will also be those who take a little bit more persuading to move or find it more difficult to move. And that's our role as a school improvement service in order to support that change towards Curriculum for Wales and the journey towards the four purposes.
Thank you, Chair.
I think the last question, if I'm right, Chair, was about communication with parents.
Yeah.
I think what we've encouraged our schools from day one is that they should all be developing their vision. I explained that for Curriculum for Wales, schools are allowed to design a curriculum within a framework, but based on the needs of their pupils. So we've encouraged and supported schools to ensure that parents, along with other stakeholders, should be involved in developing the vision for their schools. I think as well, I think one of the big changes to this curriculum is that it's never going to be a job and finish. It is not a product, it's a process. So schools continuously evaluating their curriculum and revisiting their vision based on their ever-changing needs of their pupils should be part of the process. And again, that's significant cultural change. Many of our schools will put in place workshops for parents to develop parents' understanding of Curriculum for Wales and what's different. But it would be fair to say that that perhaps isn't a consistent practice across all schools.
Thank you. Is there more as an authority we can do to encourage schools to communicate with parents and bring them in, or do we feel we're doing enough?
I think from my point of view, we're on the process at the moment of education support officers visiting every school during the autumn term, where they'll have in-depth conversations regarding progress towards Curriculum for Wales, and it certainly should be part of the role of the education support officer to be asking the questions of school leaders about how we are involving the parents and indeed the wider community in their vision for Curriculum for Wales, but also to develop their understanding of what is different.
Also, Chair, we're pushing that our schools come together as clusters more often than they have in the past. So they'll have a cluster working plan, because the aim of that cluster is to all develop those young people from a sort of 3 to 16, 3 to 18 model. So we are working with our schools at a cluster level as well as an individual school level.
Great. Diolch yn fawr. Any further questions, please, members?
I can't see any further questions, Chair.
Thank you very much, Pamela. So this report is for noting. Diolch yn fawr. Thank you, officers. Moving on to agenda item 6, we will now consider the performance monitoring reports on the Scrutiny Committee Forward Work Programme. Agenda item 6A, Service Improvement Plans, Q1 Performance Monitoring. This report is for monitoring. Please can officers provide a brief introduction to the report?
Certainly, Chair. The executive summary, I think, captures it all. It's a progress of the service improvement plans Q1. The business plans underpin the delivery of the corporate strategy 25 to 28. And Appendix 1 sets out updates against both actions and performance measures of the 7 of the education, leisure and lifelong learning service plans, because part of our directorate would report to a different scrutiny committee. Happy to take any questions, Chair.
Diolch yn fawr. Members, do we have any questions for officers, please? Councillor Reynolds, please.
Thank you, Chair. I've got a few. In terms of the 6A Q1 monitoring, I had to go back to Rhiannon just before this meeting to confirm in my own mind whether in Q1 we were talking about financial or academic years. Could it be possible on all reports to put, Q1 academic, Q1 financial, because it does occasionally vary on financial reports sometimes, so it can get confusing in the education sphere. So that would be really helpful to people who aren't immersed in it all the time. That's just a sort of informal request for going forward. I wanted to look at, on page 178, the workforce impacts consideration. Given that there've been, and I realise this is about the first quarter, but we're going in currently, and we're in the second quarter and we're moving through. Is there an expectation that the significant redundancies, staff losses in schools in this year going forward are likely to impact on the performance for the rest of 25-26?
I'm happy to take that. I'm not sure if the school redundancies impact on this report, Sonia. This is a corporate report based on service improvement plans rather than a school-based report on redundancies. So I don't think this would capture school redundancy. I think this would possibly capture officer redundancy. So I'm not sure if I can answer that question for you.
I'm just confused as to, there's going to be, a change, or I'm assuming that if there are workforce changes in the schools, that will impact on the performance in the schools. Or
shall I answer that one?
Yeah.
Because I oversee the school budgets. The answer should be no, because the reality is that schools who don't need the staff because their numbers have dropped or for whatever reason shouldn't see a loss in quality of teaching and learning as a result of that. So jobs lost because of dropping pupil numbers, which is the majority of redundancies would be, and that's why budgets are not as high as they should be, is because their pupil numbers have dropped and they're not generating that money. That shouldn't impact on standards. It'd still be the head teacher's responsibility to make sure that the best teachers are teaching in front of those children and the best support staff are employed to cover that. So I think my answer would be no.
Thank you, Rhiannon. I understand what you're saying there. I am aware from other reports, though, that many schools and some of the staff losses are teaching assistants who are there to support ALN, etc. And we have, some schools are not meeting their legal requirements because of budget issues. So I'm just looking into that a bit deeper. There are, that's not the school's fault. We know what the school deficit position is, but how that's likely to impact and whether we're keeping a real eye on that going forward.
Again, if I answer that, I would say, yes, you're right. We have, I think it's 22 schools in deficit at the end of last year. So obviously there is an impact there. But what we are finding, and I suppose what we've supported schools to be able to do is to make sure they have to make their legal duties to those children with ALN. And that is why they're in a deficit, because they are employing those staff to meet those needs in the children's IDPs. Now, longer term, this is not sustainable, as you've heard me say many times. We need more money, basically, to make sure that we are able to cover those costs. But it is my belief, and again, I'm only speaking from my point of view, and my colleagues who are in school improvement, I think will probably be saying the same, that schools are doing their best with the money they've got, and they are working hard to keep those standards high, and our education colleagues are supporting them in that.
Thank you, Rhiannon. I'm also looking at page 184, if I may, and sorry, flicking through my looking for 184. I'm concerned, or just wanted to ask about Flying Start. I'm aware that we're looking at, it's great to see the increase in Flying Start, absolutely fantastic, and looking at the sufficiency of that and constant conversations, and I'm aware of some of that, and congratulate staff in that team in looking at that progress and keeping you really working very hard on it to make things work across our providers in the early years areas. However, I know that we're looking at we're aware, and I talk within the school where I'm a governor about the lack of preparedness, and I hear about that regularly, of children coming into learning, in the nursery areas of schools, still occasionally in nappies, still with inability to communicate effectively in some ways. And I asked a while back whether that was improving in the school in my area, and was indicated that they're not particularly aware of an improvement. And my concern is, whether or not we're monitoring whether the Flying Start is making an improvement in that preparedness as we increase the Flying Start, and whether it is being able to be effective in helping to make sure that children are prepared for learning as they enter schools.
I think I'll answer that one for you again, Councillor Reynolds. Only on behalf of Hayley, of course, who's not with us this afternoon. I know that reports have come to this committee and possibly to Cabinet as well around the Flying Start programme and the successes of the programme. I'm not able to speak about it in detail, but I am confident to be able to say that it is monitored, and there are targets that are being met. And I'm sure that if you have a specific question about any particular thing, I'm sure that Sarah Griffiths or Hayley would be able to answer that in more detail for you. But generally speaking, yes, the programme is monitored, there are targets, and they are meeting those targets.
Thank you, Rhiannon. It is an excellent programme, and the expansion is good. And sorry to drop that one on you. I couldn't get to pre-briefing and haven't been able to submit prior to this. So thank you for that information. I think that's me then. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Tuck, please.
Thank you, Chair. And similar apologies in the same vein as Sonia, that I wasn't at the pre-briefing, so I'm probably dropping this on you and you might not have the information to hand. But just off the back of Sonia's question about school staff redundancies, I just wondered if you had the figures for how many teaching and support staff have been made redundant for reasons not related to a reduction in pupil numbers, if there is any.
Sorry, we wouldn't have that information at this scrutiny committee in relation to any of the reports that are in front of you. Sorry.
That's fine. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Members, do we have any further questions?
I can't see any, Chair.
Okay, thank you. So this report is also for noting. Thank you very much, officers, for your time and efforts. Moving on to the agenda, selection of items for future scrutiny. So this is to go through the Cabinet Forward Work Programme and add any further items which members may wish to consider. Pamela, do you have any updates or anything added to the Cabinet Forward Work Programme, please?
Just very briefly, Chair, there's been no changes to the Cabinet Forward Work Programme since it was published in the agenda pack, so members have had sight of that. There's 2 changes to the Scrutiny Forward Work Programme. With the agreement of the Chair, members may notice that the Eston inspection report that was due to come today will now come to committee on the 27th of November. And the school funding formula review report has moved from the 27th of November to the 8th of January. So unless members have anything further to ask regarding the forward work programmes, I'll hand back to the Chair.
Diolch yn fawr. Councillor Reynolds, please.
Thank you, Rebecca. It's before I say this, I'm going to congratulate Rhiannon on, the fact that she's always available and supplies information and keeps updates flowing and answers questions really quickly. And that's really, really useful for members, and just thank her for that. And I am, I'm concerned about one, not related directly to that, but the lack of what appears to be almost the lack of reports going to Cabinet from Education. That makes it really hard to pre-select items for scrutiny because there aren't that many listed to go through. And again, my feeling was there used to be a lot more items that we could, that were out there needing, to be considered, and it seems to have reduced somewhat. So that's the first issue. The second is with specific regard to the meeting of Cabinet for the 16th December and scrutiny for the 27th of November before that, which is the funding formula review. I'm aware from conversations earlier today that that is not on schedule at the moment. And I understand there's almost certainly really good reasons for that, and it's complex, and it's going to be a really complex change to manage. Do we know whether that's going to be delayed for scrutiny for the 27th and Cabinet decision, or whether it will still be going in December to Cabinet?
I can answer that one again. I'm sorry, you must all be fed up with my voice this afternoon. Yes, it's intended to go to Cabinet after scrutiny. I haven't sorted the date out yet with Jane and Charlotte, but I believe, I don't know, Pam, if you know the date, it's a couple of weeks after scrutiny. Scrutiny I'm hoping to do on the 8th of January, and this will be something like I don't know.
I think was it February, Rhiannon?
Oh, it was actually. You're right.
Yeah, I think it's about the 25th.
You're right. Sorry. Yes, it'll be February. Sorry, Councillor Rennes. I got so many dates in my head, I'm confused.
I'm amazed at your knowledge continually, Rhiannon. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other members have anything to add to our forward work programme, please? I don't see anyone. Okay, so agenda item 8, urgent items. I have no urgent items, so thank you very much all for your time and your questions. Thank you, officers, for everything.